This conference is held under the UNESCO Chair of Karabük University on Anticipation Studies, Futures Literacy and Strategic Foresight, and the main theme of the conference is the future of corporate management. This conference aims to bring diverse disciplines to more clearly define the future of corporate management.
We would like to start our first session with our distinguished keynote speakers. First, I would like to invite Dr. Riel Miller to deliver his speech.
Week in South Africa, where I had the opportunity to work with 3 different universities. The University of Witwatersrand, the University of Stellenbosch, and the University of Pretoria. And one of the things that comes to the surface in the work that I do, one of the things that is a blessing but also a curse, tell you what's in their minds. And you listen carefully to what they say. You discover many things. In South Africa, one of the things that clearly is part of their imagination of the future, is the pain, the trauma of apartheid, the trauma of colonialism, the trauma of failure, because there was a dream. I'm a child of the 20th century, not the 21st, the 20th century. And the 20th century, I have to say, from my perspective, was very disappointing. Not only was it a century of many wars, terrible wars, not only was it a century of colonialism, but it was a century when many dreams died. Dreams from the 19th century, dreams of progress, dreams of industrial society, dreams that everybody would have a job and that life would be defined by your work. This was a positive dream at one point. It might seem curious to you, but the dream of the Soviet Union was a dream that failed. So what are we to do with hope? Where's the hope now? Economic development for humanity, the planet, our home, is telling us you cannot destroy and destroy and destroy and destroy and destroy without destroying your nest, without destroying your home. And we say, well, we understand, but we still want, we still want, we still want, we still want, we still want. We still take the oil, we still take it. We can't stop. But where does our addiction come from? Why are we addicted? There was a moment, some of you may have heard about it, and I don't know if I hope that the language makes sense here. But there was a book that came out a few years ago called Hospicing Modernity. The word hospicing means where do you send somebody when they're dying? So you send a person to a special type of hospital when they only have a few months left to live so that they can be comfortable. Of course, it's very nice for them to be comfortable, and they're dying, so that's good. And the proposition was that modernity, so the modern condition, what I was talking about from the point of view of the 19th century, and the ideas from the 19th century that are still in our heads. This idea of progress, this idea of growth, this idea of competition, this idea of dominance, this idea of empire. These ideas should be allowed to go gently, quietly, to their end. And this was the idea of hospicing modernity. But I think that that's too positive. Because hospicing means that you cannot avoid the inevitable. If we think it's to control the world, we will fail. We will be disappointed. We will look like fools. But only fools that try to live in a universe that is not our own. This is not new. It really is not new. If you look at the ancient monuments, the pyramids in Egypt, if you look at the pyramids in Mexico, if you look at the Great Wall in China, many human communities have been trying to dominate the future, to do things which have permanence, continuity, durability. That my legacy should stand on the shoulders of my children. I do not find that generous. I do not find that a gift. I have confidence in my children. My greatest gift to them is to liberate them, not to impose upon them. So we have been living with monumentalist societies, with fear of change. This is a terrible thing, to be afraid of change. Because it means that we're afraid all the time. It means that it's so easy to scare us. Because we're naive. Because in my terms, we are futures illiterate. And the strange thing is that this is good news. For a manager, this is very good news. Why? Because it means that a manager can manage their idea. An entrepreneur can manage their company, like a cell in my body. They manage it, they experiment, they live, and if they die, that's not bad. It's good. Because we need turnover. We need experimentation. It's not a flaw. It's not a mistake. It's not about intelligence. This idea that intelligence can allow you to control the future is fundamentally false. There is no such intelligence, at least not for humans. So, the question that I continue to ask is something related to experience. It's related to the experience that I think everybody has, which is that when you're a child, you need to be certain. If you cry, somebody will come to help you. If you need food and you're a baby, you yell and you get food. You must be sure of these things for survival. But when we become a little bit older, when we move from being children to being adolescents, you want your friends to like you. You want your friends to think that you're cool, that you're great. But there's no way to be sure. And one day, you go and you buy very nice shoes, and you go to the party, sneakers, Nike, and you go to the party and you realize everybody has the same shoes that you do, and you look like a fool. This is an emergent situation. It's something that you cannot predict. It happens, and then you have to decide what to do. And as we get older, and as we have more experience, we realize, is there anybody in the room that thinks that they will know what they're doing in 10 years, what job they will have, how they will feel, what their relationships will be to the people around them, their friends, their family? We know that we cannot know. If you tell a child, you must think like an adult. This is ridiculous. You can't think like an adult. You must have the experience to become an adult. And then you will know what it's like to think like an adult. So when it comes to the future, and we think like children, because I must know the future. I must know what's going to happen. We're thinking like children. When are we going to grow up? How many centuries of destruction? How many centuries of arrogance? I can control the future. I can control the company, the people, the other company beside. I can colonize. I can take. I can build a castle that will last forever. I want to be very delicate, and I don't want to offend. But you know, the nation state was an invention. The nation state is not given by nature. The nation state is a human invention. Just like the company and the corporation are inventions. Do we want those inventions to stay the same and forever? Do people think today, after the 19th century, the 20th century, and now the 21st century, the terrible, 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 terrible things we are doing to each other and to our environment? Do we really think this is a good way? I'm not saying I have an alternative. It would be wrong, intellectually and coherently, for me to say I have an answer. Because my position is exactly the opposite. It's the presentation of an answer that is the problem. If you think you know the future, and you think you can dominate the future, then you are making a mistake. You are trying to play a power that you do not have. And something I want to say to students. Getting a degree is a very rewarding activity, but it gives you no guarantee of anything. I've worked for many, many years. When I went to the OECD in 1982, right at the very beginning of my career, on the question of what's the relationship between education and work. The evidence is very clear from this perspective. When you go to a job, that's when you learn what you do on the job. You do not learn that beforehand. Because the job is specific. It's specific to context, it's specific to activities, it's specific to what you do. And this is true for every job. You go to the job, you learn the job. So what's the relationship? Well, you have the process of industrialization, the nation state, industry, markets, which creates very powerful forces of growth. And so you have jobs. And at the same time, you need the work of education to input knowledge, to input behavior, to input networks, connections. And so the education system does work with the industrial system, but